Is this Iran versus US war the event that starts World War III? It sounds like a headline, but the real question is structure. Wars become world wars when several big powers are pulled into direct and sustained fighting. When alliances remove the option to stay out, when more than one theater stays active at the same time, and when retaliation becomes a machine that keeps running. So we judge this risk the clean way. A timeline, then the mechanisms, then the signals to watch. Here is the timeline that matters. The 13th of February 2026. Reuters reported U.S. military planning for the possibility of operations against Iran that could last weeks. A short strike is a message. Weeks-long planning is a campaign mindset. The 28th of February 2026. Large strikes began inside Iran, across multiple locations. Israel was reported as participating in the opening phase. This matters because it widens the conflict at the start. It also makes retaliation logic more complex from day one. Also on the 28th of February 2026, major reporting said Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei was killed in the initial strikes. A leadership shock like that changes incentives fast. It can trigger a rush to prove control. It can also make revenge feel mandatory. And it can weaken the quiet voices arguing for restraint. February 28 into the 1st of March 2026, Iran retaliated with missiles and drones. Some strikes focused on Israel, others threatened or targeted the wider regional footprint tied to U.S. forces and partners. The exchange did not stay inside one box. That is how conflicts widen without an official declaration. The 1st of March 2026. U.S. Central Command confirmed U.S. service members were killed and others seriously wounded. This is an inflection point. Because casualties harden domestic pressure and shrink room to de-escalate, they also increase the chance of follow-on strikes meant to restore deterrence. March 2 to the 3rd of March 2026. Reporting indicated the U.S. death toll rose beyond the initial figure, and the operation was still described as something that could last weeks. Duration is the engine that creates new fronts, because every extra day produces new targets, new mistakes, and new revenge. Now step back. What does this timeline imply? It implies the conflict is no longer just a warning shot. It is a direct clash with an open-ended clock. That does not automatically mean world war, but it creates a pathway to world war. So what is that pathway? It is a chain. First mechanism, time compression. When both sides are trading direct strikes, leaders stop thinking in weeks. They think in hours. Short decision windows produce errors. Defensive moves can be read as offensive preparation. This is how accidents become choices. And once a choice is made, pride makes it hard to reverse. Second mechanism, alliance gravity. Once Israel and the US are tied to the same opening campaign, the conflict gains a second center of gravity. Response ladders get harder to control. Partners can be pulled in by geography alone. Bases, airspace, and energy sites become targets by proximity. Even neutral actors may get dragged in by a single strike on their soil. Third mechanism, the proxy network problem. Iran has relationships with armed groups across the region. Even if Tehran wants control, proxies can act on their own timelines. If the US responds to proxy attacks as direct Iranian decisions, the cycle tightens, and each side starts punishing what the other side cannot fully control. Fourth mechanism, energy and shipping choke points. If the fight threatens key shipping lanes or major oil and gas infrastructure, the conflict stops being regional in effect. Prices jump, insurance spikes, trade reroutes. Then other major economies face pressure to act, even if they do not want to. That pressure can look like escorts, deployments, or covert support, which then creates more contact points. So what would make this cross the line into a true World War III structure? You are looking for direct entry of additional major powers into sustained combat roles. Not just statements, not just sanctions, but repeated kinetic engagement, openly, over time. And you are looking for a second or third theater that stays hot. Because a world war is not one battlefield, it is a network of battlefields. Now here are the signals to watch next. US and Iran shift from strikes to sustained campaigns with expanded objectives. That is when exit ramps disappear. Retaliation spreads beyond military targets into energy and major logistics. That is when civilian life and global markets become part of the battlefield. Shipping disruption becomes continuous, not episodic. A pattern forces other powers to protect trade, whether they want to or not. Additional major powers begin escorts, air defense deployments, or direct strikes. The moment multiple flags are trading fire in the same space, escalation math changes. Public red lines harden into promises leaders cannot walk back. Those words trap decision-makers inside their own messaging. So where are we right now? Right now, this looks like a major threshold moment. Direct strikes at scale, retaliation across multiple lanes, confirmed U.S. casualties, and signals of duration. That is not a world war yet, but it is a structure that can become one if the system keeps adding actors and objectives. The next days matter most. Because the first cycle sets the pattern. If the pattern becomes routine, the map changes. And when the map changes, the world follows.